Welcome to the channel. It's Bua and I appreciate that you're here with me today. So what do we have here? We have the Kia Sportage. Some of you might be asking themselves, why do we have it again? Because we had the green one and the difference of course is the paint. But no, that's not all. I mean, this is a diesel one. The one we had earlier this year was a petrol. And if I'm looking at the spec levels, this is the diesel EX and the one we had was the petrol EX. So we're not going to be covering a lot of stuff today. There's a lot of wind here. I hope you can hear me. But we're not going to be covering a lot of stuff around the car and so on. Our job is pretty simple. We need to see which one is better between the petrol and the diesel. So without further ado, I'm just going to take you around the car just a bit, and then from there we hitting the road and doing what we are supposed to be doing today. Thank you. Yo. Without further ado, then I just want to walk around the car a bit before we go. Some of you already know how I feel about the Kia Sportage. You've seen the petrol review and you know very well that I'm not even going to say much about how this car looks. This car looks amazing. It looks amazing and I can't even complain about it. So when I'm looking at it right now, I'm thinking, yeah, it does it for me. I think the red paint though is not necessarily the best, especially compared to the green one. That green one was amazing. Go check out that video, you'll see what I'm talking about. I think the white one as well, as I've been seeing it on the road and it's quite amazing. And if you have the money, you can go even higher than EX because EX is the mid-spec variant. And when I'm looking at the pricing, especially when it comes to diesel, it starts around 628,000 for the lower spec LX. And then if you want then the EX, this particular one is 682. They go all the way up to 798,000 for the GT Line S. And that looks amazing. I think from my side, if you have the money, you can go all the way up. But I'm not 100% sure that you need all this stuff, unless if you want the looks. Because even with this EX variant, we can agree that this thing actually looks pretty cool. I mean, just looking at it from the rear, I think some people don't necessarily prefer it because it's a little bit plain, but when you go to the front, we can agree that it looks amazing. When you jump inside, you'll see that the interior as well is pretty amazing. I mean, I'm gonna say amazing a lot because a lot of this car is amazing quality. I mean, just look at that, and tell me if maybe I'm just trying to sell Kia to you, because I don't think I'm trying to sell Kia to you right now. I mean, the KV screen, caving straight to the driver this side, and when you're looking at just the way it's made, the quality and everything else, I've said this before, I'm not going to repeat that. This is pretty amazing. The spec level as well, it's quite amazing. There's heated seats, heated steering wheel in front, heated seats at the back as well, memory seats in front. This car is, I mean, when I'm thinking about it, a lot of people do think that, you know what, Kia is quite expensive for what they're asking from you. But from my side, when I'm thinking about it, I think we are not necessarily comparing Kia to the right competitors here. We're talking someone that's giving you premium specs at a price that I would regard as low. Because if I was to compare this car to other cars, I'm probably going to put the X1 here, I'm going to put the Q3 here and ask you how much are those cars. Because when I'm looking at this is pretty amazing. The quality is pretty amazing as well. So like I said, we're not going to be taking a lot of time on this car. We just want to drive it and see which one is better between this one and the petrol. Let's hit the road. So I'm on the side of the road, and this particular road is the same route that I drove on when we had the Sportage Petrol. And one thing about the petrol that I said at the time was relating to the pickup, and I indicated that you need to give the petrol a lot of push to actually get it moving, and you won't necessarily feel the same about the diesel. But there's something, let me say there's a catch basically, because when it comes to the diesel from a standstill and you are forcing to move it. By that I mean you're planting your foot down and you want it to move it as quickly as possible. You're going to experience a different feeling compared to the petrol. As much as the petrol starts with that lag and then it gives the boost and then it kicks, it goes, it is a little bit quicker compared to this diesel, because we are talking about looking for 100 kilowatts instantly and looking for 132 kilowatts instantly. That's never going to be the same thing, because the petrol is 132 kilowatts, it's low on torque, which is 265 newton meters of torque. But when we're talking about the diesel here, it's 100 kilowatts, 320 newton meters of torque. They're both 1.6 diesel. They're both 1.6 engines. But when it comes to when we are already on the move and you are asking for some bit of movement from the engines, that's where you're going to see the differences between the petrol and the diesel. Because pushing it like this now, asking for everything out of it immediately, the 320 newton meters of torque can do as much as it can to boost you, but at the end of the day you're still dealing with 100 kilowatts, which is something that is different in the petrol. It starts slowly, but the moment it starts going, it punches much quicker and much better than the diesel. But when you're already on the move and you're trying to fit in some power to actually get moving, let's say now, okay, this is not an area where I can show you because yeah, you can see it's 60 kilometers on. But the thing is, when you're already on the move, I feel the diesel is performing much better than the petrol, because it's not requiring much effort to actually move from one point, probably from 80 kilometers per hour to 100 kilometers per hour. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you now on the road to say how exactly is it behaving compared to the petrol. Because I was saying petrol, you need to give it a much push under your right foot compared to what I'm experiencing right now. And yeah, I just want to show you as I'm turning here. Look at this thing, says wherever I'm going it says I must go left, but I'm not listening for some reason. Okay, so pushing the diesel from standstill like this, you're not going to get much. In fact, it's going to be screaming throughout. It is complaining already, which is something that I can say we've said about the petrol, but it's a little bit different here. Because listen to how much this thing is screaming, 3.4. Okay, now let's say you want to move from 100 to 120 or to 80, from 80 to 100, and you want to do it seamlessly. This is where I feel the diesel is shining. Less effort. It's not asking a lot from the engine. The torque is just coming in properly and just feeding through. Look at it jumping. Look at it jumping. I'm experiencing this differently to the petrol on the open road than on short distance drives, and that's something that I love about this diesel. Yes, for someone who prefers a punchy car from standstill, they will look at the petrol and think, you know what, I'm not doing a lot of long distance. I'm not in a situation where I can say I value not having that punch that screams on the road, because the petrol is coming with a different kind of fruity sound compared to the diesel. I think they would prefer petrol. If you're not doing a lot of kilometers, you're probably going to prefer petrol. But if you're going to be on the open road like this for so long, and maybe your daily commute requires you to be on the open road for longer, I think this diesel is going to be for you, because I can't even say I'm faulting it that much. I expected a lot worse from a 100 kilowatts kind of an engine, especially considering that this car is probably the same weight as the 132 kilowatts. I was like, 132 kilowatts is already screaming, but in here I am getting 100. But I'm impressed, especially on the open road like this. Funny enough, I might prefer to take a long journey in this than in the petrol, because it doesn't shift a lot in terms of moving from D7 all the way to D4, asking for power. The torque is enough to actually get this car moving. It shines on the open roads. I'm impressed with it. I expected a lot worse from a 100 kilowatt engine. I'm quite impressed with it. It doesn't make noise. Once you settle down, it settles down and it doesn't make noise. I mean, the noise that I'm getting in here is mostly just the wind noise, and today is a little bit windy, so I do expect the wind noise to be a little bit higher than normal. But yeah, otherwise I can't complain much about how it performs on the road, especially considering the engine size. Anyway, you do have like drive modes in here that you can use. I prefer Smart because it reads how you're driving and it adjusts to that. It moves through all the 3 driving modes that are in here, excluding Smart, of course. That is the Eco, we have Normal, and we have Sport. I feel like when it's on Sport, you know, it's always asking you to push, and yeah, it's not necessarily going to be enjoyable when you have to do like 100 kilometers per hour, because look at it now, it's sticking to like D5, and just those kind of things are the ones that are gonna say I don't prefer this driving mode. Jumping to Normal, you are driving normally. I mean, it's as normal as it can get. You're not necessarily getting anything different to when it's on Smart, basically, according to the way I'm feeling it. When it's on Eco, yeah, it's cutting some power here and there, but the Eco in this diesel, I'm finding it to be way more acceptable than a lot of cars out there. I'm enjoying Eco in here more than a lot of cars, actually. As much as I prefer Smart, if you want to save some fuel, I think this is probably the best way to travel, especially on long distance roads like this, where there's not a lot of cars, where you're not going to be doing a lot of overtakes and so on. I think that's where then you're going to enjoy it. And as well, when it comes to fuel consumption in the Petrol, I was doing around 10 liters to 100. Look at this thing right now. I'm on 6.9 liters to 100 over the last 285 kilometers that I've done, and that was on like driving in the city and also on the open roads like this. So on fuel consumption, diesel is definitely going to eat. But when it comes to the fun of it and that fruity sound that comes from the Petrol, as much as it's screaming, the diesel one, the screams are just unbearable, man. If you love taking on cars, overtaking and asking a lot from the engine, you're not going to enjoy this diesel engine, because it screams a lot. It screams a lot, and yeah, it's not something that you're going to enjoy. But if you're a seamless driver that likes to just be cool on the road, be like chilled, you're going to enjoy this one, especially because, like I said, in the Petrol, this car is very comfortable. The suspension in here, you're talking McPherson in front, multi-link at the back. It's very independent at the rear. It doesn't necessarily require you to feel like you know what, you don't need the smoothest road to understand that the suspension is comfortable. This road is actually a little bit bumpy. As much as you may not see it, it is a little bit bumpy, but this car is handling it quite well. I'm enjoying driving this car on the long journeys. It's a very comfortable car. I said it in the Petrol, I don't want to repeat a lot about that. From that point, I don't think I can complain about anything in here. And the space itself is a very good space to be in. I enjoy Kia cars. Like recently, I've been enjoying Kia cars so much that when I get inside a Kia, I get a different feeling altogether in terms of the experience overall. It's completely different compared to a lot of cars out there. Some of them very expensive. I don't get the same feeling even from some expensive cars, because this car is coming at what, 682,000, and you get a whole lot of car that is so premium. Simple things, the touch points, I mean, it's soft materials. You're talking about material bits that are feeling like quality. The steering wheel feels like quality as well, just by touching it. The buttons as well, when you're touching them, very much quality. You talk about this sound system, which is a standard sound system, by the way, and for me, it's not the worst sound system out there. I've driven much more expensive cars that are sounding a lot worse than this one. I'll just let it play for a bit, and then you can just hear how it goes. So yeah, that's how the sound system is. It's quite rich in the way it produces, like the melodies and everything. I find the bass to be adequate. Even when you're playing the volume quite low, it balances well, manages to reduce the exterior noises quite well. You can hear right now that the wind noise is minimized, the road noise. In fact, this car doesn't have much road noise. I applaud them for probably it's the tire combination and just the suspension as well. It doesn't have a lot of road noise. This car is very comfortable. I love it. I'm gonna keep saying that because that's just what this car is all about. I don't even think performance is its selling point, but the comfort and overall feeling and how you feel inside this car is quite amazing. I'm very much impressed with what Kia has done. Despite me having the aircon on, doesn't make a lot of noise, settles down quite well. I'm on sport mode now, but in this diesel, actually the sport mode is quite better. It's better than in the sport, in the petrol, because even when you're on sport like this, it can still settle down on 7th gear and you don't necessarily find yourself having to push the car to actually go all the way up. I enjoy that in the diesel. It settles down quite well. It's a definite cruiser. It can do a lot of long distance and you're going to enjoy this. You're going to enjoy a lot of this. Otherwise, when it comes to the Sportage overall, you know how I feel about it. I've already indicated how I feel about this Sportage. It's an amazing car. Looks great, feels great to drive, and I can't even say you shouldn't buy it. If you're looking into this segment, in fact, other people that have been asking me, what should I consider? I'm looking to buy something like a Q3 or X1 where I can literally say to them, look, you know what? Just go and check the Sportage and you tell me what you think, especially if you have that kind of money to buy the X1, which is around 800,000 and above. If you look at the top spec GT line S, you're going to be looking at a car that is complete in so many ways, and it gives you so much more, according to the way that I'm looking at this, at 800,000, because it comes just below 800,000 and it's going to give you a whole lot more. When it comes to a lot more details, if you check that petrol review, the petrol variant review, you're going to find a lot more details about this car. Otherwise, I'll put more details in description below. Truly appreciate that you're here with me. I thank you so much. I am out.